Hi everyone, I'm Claire.
And I'm John.
And today we're talking about an article called Too Old to Drive. It's pretty clear from the title here what this article is about. Are you too old to drive? I'm sure if you've read the news recently, there have been a number of incidents with old people having little issues while driving. But this article will go into more detail and we'll look at that later. Do your grandparents still drive, John?
They're all dead.
Oh.
They do not drive. No, but they did drive until the very end. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think driving is such a part of America that it's very difficult to give any incentive for older people to stop driving. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe one might have been in a sort of home, like a care home. Mm-hmm. I forgot what they're called, but yeah, sort of elderly
nursing
care
home.
home. Oh, nursing home, yeah, elderly care home, nursing home. And so they didn't drive as much, but they still had the option to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they drove to the bitter end. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my grandmothers are the only ones who have lived over 80. And both of them drove well into their 80s, and they did give up many years before they died, but I'm sure they were both at least 85 plus before they weren't forced, they chose to stop driving.
Drop down the gear when you're 80. How did they drive, though?
I was never in the car with them, but they never had an accident.
Your mom never let you get into the car.
No, they just lived in a different town, and I've been abroad for a long time. So I don't know, but they never had an accident, no injuries, or even parking tickets or anything. So I assume well enough.
No injuries to them or also people around them? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. What comes to mind when you do think of elderly drivers?
I can't help but think about an episode of one of my favorite TV shows from the early 2000s, South Park. It was called Grey Dawn, and it was an entire episode focused on elderly drivers, and I think mostly how annoying they are because they tend to drive quite slowly and they often don't forget where they're going, or it didn't really focus on the danger, it just focused more on the annoyance of elderly drivers.
And they can be.
I'm not a driver though, so I have never really encountered this, but you used to drive back in the US, so do you have any problems?
Not too much, but when people were driving slower, you would get annoyed at them, and then you pull up next to them to pass them, and you see that they're 400 years old, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just an older driver, and you pass. It was never like, I don't remember ever being angry at an older driver driving. I was just always like, oh, they're older, they're just going slower, that's fine. Because I still have the idea you should be safe when driving, comfortable when driving. If you're scared to drive, don't drive. That's it. People who are scared to drive are the ones who are going to make the most accidents. Yeah. If you're not skilled at driving, you can learn. If you are too confident in driving, it can be a problem. But yeah, scared drivers are the worst drivers. Sorry.
I am that scared driver. This is why I have never learned to drive.
Well, good. I'm glad that you had the self-awareness to say, you know what, I don't really want to drive.
I would be a danger to myself and others. Let's take a look at some specific details about this incident in Seoul in particular.
Too old to drive? A man in his 80s recently caused a fatality when he tried to make a U-turn from the farthest lane to the right, cutting across several lanes of traffic in Seoul. There's no doubt that we lose some abilities as we get older, and some people say it's best to stop driving. But most elderly drivers are slower and more careful, and it may not be fair to single them out. Still, the public is concerned about the issue, and authorities have put extra education requirements and fees in place for drivers in their 70s and above.